So, week 2, session 4. This one's called When the Mind Attacks. This is your practice. In all honesty, it is why you're here, to build that reservoir for when life does take a bit of a dip and we get lost in those unhelpful habits and again into those disruptive emotions. We've got some tools and techniques for when it seems to attack, and it does feel like sometimes it's attacking us, when really all it's doing is doing what it's programmed to do. And all we're doing now is changing the programming sequence. Now, the paradox of this work is it's not until it begins to dip that we know what the reservoir is going to be like. Now, am I running on empty? Am I thirsty for some of that respite? Or is it like an ocean that I can share not just with myself but with everyone that's around me through this period of confusion? Now, we've already looked at several different practices. We looked at the 7-11 breathing. We did the breathing practice. We're looking for the good and bad in things, leaning into the feelings. And the other one was that turning unconstructive worry into constructive worry. Now, some of them will have felt a little weird, maybe even feel like they didn't work. Now, please remember, go easy on yourself. I don't want to create more anxiety for you just because things aren't working out perfectly. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's just about starting to give you some of that well-researched tools that you can begin to call upon when your alarm system fires and begins to leave us with that state of unnecessary anxiety and stress. So what do I mean when the mind attacks? That this is our practice. Now, if we focus on destruction, this feeds the disruptive emotions. If we look to the heroes in the story, we recognize that anger can't and won't ever help. So we focus on compassion over sadness and harness this energy so we can do good. Just breathe and keep noticing the breath until you've calmed down. And whilst it won't feel like it at the start, it will absolutely calm you down eventually. The breath will soften that anger or anxiety if you're patient. It is also nice to remind yourself that with a heart filled with anxiety or anger, how can I help? Now, trying to bring this phrase, when the mind attacks, into our current reality can be amazing for you. Now, it's amazing that weeks ago we would naturally feel a sense of warmth for others when we're out and about. Now, often now, some people I've been speaking to in particular, they feel scared and anxious. Even going to the shops is a journey. Naturally, they're going to be people who will worry about, will this person be contagious? What if he sneezes? What if he coughs? What if all these things? We start playing around in our mind. And this worry gets us stuck in this sort of little eye. Now, as we continue to see this change and the ripple effect these changes are having on us, it often contracts within ourselves and disconnects us from others. We feel almost like no longer we see them, we see a virus, not a human. Feeling part of the community is a massive part of our mental health. The quality of our relationships is more important than almost everything else. Disconnecting from our relationships will have a big impact on how we view our world. We are no longer looking through the same lens. We are contracting from society and relationships, and that connection. We don't see our world clearly. We don't see our relationships and work clearly. Everything starts to change. If we're not watching and more motivational in managing our minds, this contraction can form some further unwanted habits that we most definitely don't want. And I guess that is why I don't really like the word social distancing. we can still be social. We can still smile. We can still say hello. We can still communicate, even virtually. So we're not socially distancing. All we're doing is just keeping a little bit of space between each other for the safety of everyone. It's more compassion than anxiety. Now, I'm not trying to say in any way that this system that we have is doing anything wrong. Mother Nature, or whoever you believed, designed this system to keep us safe, and it has done for hundreds of thousands of years. The narrow view of things this narrow view of ours kept physical threats at bay. And even now, if you were challenged, we'd have the system to mobilize us, to motivate us, to create action and change. So this response, this stress response system, this ancient system within us, is only doing what the program wants us to do. And this system comes online for most of us before we can recognize it. Our mind and our body do not see the difference between the physical and emotional threat. So when we feel like we're under threat, or we begin to believe we are under threat, we're trying to recognize that we are not in threat. We are just trying to keep a bit of space, not just for ourselves, but for those that we care about, which in itself is a very compassionate act. I don't see anyone out there really going out of their way to pass this thing on. Ignorance and naivety, yeah, but I don't see malice. So we need to get better at not finding ourselves in this very narrow black and white thinking, and open ourselves up or expand our mind to help us reconnect and wipe the sawdust from our eyes. You know, when we get hijacked by these more disruptive emotions that we have. So let's do a little practice, shall we? We check in. And all I want you to do is just bring some awareness in how you're feeling right now. Just right now, right in this moment. Can we be present to the senses that we're having right now? Listening around, maybe hearing some of the sounds. Maybe you can feel you sat in a chair or wherever you are. Maybe you can feel the clothes that you're wearing. Maybe you can taste something. We can do this anytime. So when we feel the fear or the anxiety, we can feel into the fear. This is where we will find the compassion. We don't need to feel anything other than what we're feeling. We don't need to do anything other than recognize what is going on for us right now, and just making each minute count. We can even extend it a little further and look around and maybe recognize that maybe others are feeling the same feelings that we are right now. That I'm not alone. That just like me, others are struggling too. And another nice thing to do is just to recognize that there's something nice and warm going on around you, and connect with that feeling. That felt sense of the human connection that is always there, just by seeing something nice in others. And obviously you can return that favor to you too. So can we appreciate others, connect with others, find something nice outside of us? Just watch others and see them, like in the shops, and see you all as doing something together maybe. And maybe even extend it a little and wish them some compassion as you're walking down the aisles, or as they're getting their fruit and vegetables for the rest of the day, or whatever they're doing. It's a challenging old world out there, and people are anxious and worried and making mistakes that put others in harm's way. And we may be eager to exert some of this anxiety towards them. Maybe with anger, maybe with frustration. Maybe we want to confront them and discuss with them. Or discuss them with friends and family. And all this does, it just drags back that black and white thinking again. You know, it goes back to that wonderful quote, an eye for an eye just makes all of us go blind. And if everyone got stuck in that narrow-mindedness, we'd never get out of this. blinding us to the reality of how we truly want to live. So instead, can we appreciate their suffering, just bit by bit, and only when you can? Maybe we can begin to see the impermanence of life that's there too. I mean, just think back 5 weeks ago and where you are now. No one would have thought this. You know, like me, 5 weeks ago, my business was rocking and rolling. I was getting courses and workshops booked in, planning my next trip back to the UK in June, had flights booked, and then lockdown. Everyone cancelled. I went from being busy to earning next to nothing, and nothing until at least next June. Now, it'd be easy for me to get stuck on who caused this, how did it get to Australia, how we got into this position, blame people for my lack of income, get angry with people going out still and spreading it. But what good would that do? Who would that help? Now, I could get out in the street and scream at people, but it's not going to help what's going on, not on the grand scheme of things. Now, if my heart is full of anger and anxiety, how can I help? All I can do is accept it. All I can do is allow these feelings to come in, to come and go. You know, like Rumi says in his wonderful poem, I let these feelings violently sweep my house empty of all of its furniture. Yet I try and treat these emotions honourably, as I may never know what they are clearing me out for. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them all at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide. Now, I just want to finish with a quote, one of my personal favourites. I'm sure most of you have heard it 100 times if you've been on my courses, and I know most of you have been. But the most beautiful people we have known are those that have known defeat, that have known struggle, known loss, and have made their way out of the depths. These persons have an appreciation, a sensitivity, and an understanding of life that fills them with compassion, gentleness, and deep loving concern. Beautiful people do not just happen. When the mind attacks, meet it at the door. Meet it with compassion. Get better at it, bit by bit by bit. Small 1%, 0.5% improvements every day. Build foundations now that'll impact generations to come. So, formal practice this week. I've added a systematic mind training exercise to your link. It's called Resting and Rising. Please make time every day for this, please. Keep going with some of the shorter techniques, and at least now one longer practice every day from now on. If you don't, again, you are the pilot of your own plane. Thank you so much for your time. Have so much gratitude for coming this far. Have an amazing rest of your day.